I've been having lots of conversations with teachers lately on how they use AI. And what I've found is a lot of them use AI like a vending machine. You type in a request and you take whatever drops out, and you kind of wonder why it sounds like a robot and how it's not really actually producing anything that useful. It's got those emojis, those M dashes. It all kind of sucks. And today we're going to cover 5 little shifts that you can make in your workflows with AI to make it actually work for you to produce the outcomes you want versus just sounding like generic AI slop. So let's dive into it. So let's stop using AI as a vending machine and let's start using it to actually help us get the results that we want. So today we're going to be covering those 5 things that we can use AI for to actually get the results that we want. And so it doesn't sound like a robot. One of the things that we're going to kind of cover today is that these are already tools that you're using, right? You already have been using them for some time. We all have been, but maybe it's just time to shift a way in which we use them just slightly to actually help get the results that we're looking for. So there's nothing to install, no major workflow. This is for those of you that are just looking for some super easy lifts to actually get some better outputs for what you're looking to produce. So the first thing that the idea that I kind of want to touch on and that I'm thinking of is this idea of moving away from writing to thinking. So most of the time when we use AI, we write something. We just say, hey, can you produce me an email for this? Or can you generate a report on this? Or can you do X, Y, and Z for me? And it genuinely will do really well because it's a, you know, generative tool. So it will find the best middle ground to kind of create the outcome that you're looking for. And it does a fairly good job, but it doesn't really sound like you. And it's kind of just generic. And so what we want to do is we want to start to think about what are some of the things and tools that you've done and ways you've written things that you actually like and enjoy, so that way you can produce those again and replicate them. So one of those things is that we're going to be kind of wanting to try to do differently is creating your own personal voice so the AI knows what to reference. How do you sound? What's your tone like? What do you sound like when you're professional versus when you want to be more casual? So this is where you're going to just paste ideas into the chat, the things that you are already doing, the things that you've written, the things that sound like you as a reference point. And they may not be perfect examples of writing, and AI could actually make those pieces even better because there might be ways in which you could write more eloquently that AI can catch and improve upon, but it can at least have a starting point of what you actually sound like. What's your tone of voice? What's the way you want to actually come across? The second shift I want you to kind of think about is make it ask you first. And so what I mean by this is oftentimes when we're treating it like a vending machine, we just expect it to regurgitate an answer. But one of the best ways to use AI and these LLMs is maybe instead of asking for an output or a response or an answer, is to ask you questions. Ask it for context. Ask it to elaborate on the things that are inside your head that you need to do in order to kind of help it run more optimally. Because there's so much that's going on in your head that you could probably give it more interesting context. And the reality is that when we keep it all locked up and we just try to type it out, it makes it really, really difficult to do. And so this asking first can be super, super helpful to generate one of those ways in which you can create those ideas more eloquently. And one of the things as well that I like to do a lot is because I'm quite a uh, dynamic person in the sense that I can feel like my language is something that is to my advantage versus my typing skills are so much slower, and I can dictate so much faster with my voice. And so one of the things that I do often when I'm answering questions or asking it to do certain tasks and tools for me or process for me, I use the dictate feature. So I use the little icon where I can click and just record my voice and say, hey, here are the things that I would like to have happen. This is what I'd like to do. This is what I'd like to accomplish, or answer the questions and just be as elaborate and in depth as I can, because it's so much faster and easier for me to speak. Shift number 3 is give it a home. And the reason why I have this kind of title is because oftentimes, just like when you have file folders or something like that on your computer, you have all the collection of things that, documents and Excel sheets and PowerPoints that you kind of all related to a certain topic. And so within all of these LLMs like ChatGPT or Claude, or Anthropic's Claude, or I don't know if Gemini has it, but what you can do is you can create what's called a project. And these projects are a great place to house all of the information that may be necessary for a certain kind of idea that you're always going to be working with. So this could be, say, for example, me personally, I created my own kind of personal voice. So I asked a bunch of questions and it kind of understands my tone of voice and how I like to write and all of those kinds of things. Because every week I do a newsletter for my students. And for the last couple of years, I had, 50 plus newsletters that I had written. And I wanted to kind of replicate that voice. Could I make this process just slightly faster? And so what I did is I plugged all of those into a project. So now whenever I create a chat in that project, it can reference every single piece of information that I've written, all of my skills, all of my voice information, and the brand guides, and all of those kinds of things, the way I like to style it, all of that to help make sure that we can kind of get a consistent output every time in my voice, in the way that I like to write. And so it's a really great way to have if you're working in a specific domain. So, say, for example, it's a newsletter, or if it's a class and you have multiple classes and you have one class that you kind of use a lot of information that you want to plug into, you can create a project for just that class and have conversations with the reference materials that you upload for that project, which is super, super cool. So I'd highly recommend checking out projects if you have not already learned about that. Shift number 4 is, instead of telling AI to, you can say, here's something that I've written, or here's something that I'm working on. Can you do a quality assurance and just find what's broken? Can you find the gaps and the errors and the places that I'm not able to see that could probably cause fusion, or, be something that could lead someone astray from what the actual directive and kind of outcome that I'm trying to move towards? This is super, super helpful, because what you can do is you can start to use it as a collaborator, as a tool to kind of reference what is helpful for you in terms of kind of growing and improving, because it's a tool that has so much knowledge. And so if we just direct it in the right way, it can actually help us to improve our own workflow. So I know for myself in counseling, some of the things that I've tested and tried a few times is like, hey, maybe uh, you can be, give me some examples of students, and you can have a conversation with it and see if there's ways in which you can improve using a certain modality, or maybe there's certain materials that you've created in the past where you're like, hey, I referenced this document a lot. How aligned is it with this certain modality of counseling, or this type of process that I'm trying to go for? So it can be super helpful because it has so much knowledge, and you can kind of use it to critique and fix the points that maybe are gaps in the way in which you're trying to come across. And the last shift that I feel like is super helpful and would be uh, a relevant one for most people, as you start to kind of grow and evolve with using these systems and tools, is building something small first. Don't need to build an entire app. You don't need to, create this mega SaaS software where it will do all of these things. Sometimes it's starting super small and super simple, where you just start with the easiest lift. So, for example, it could be something as simple as, you have one intake form and it can create a calendar invite, it can send an email and generate a PDF and attach it to that email. So this is a prime example of something that I've just recently built for our administrative assistant. She has a process of requesting off mountain transport, because we live in the mountains, and we have to go off mountain to all of the doctor's appointments and dentist appointments and things like that. And so she arranges these for our boarding students. And the cool thing is, before, she had to do a custom calendar invite, and she had to plug all the same information in. She had to write an email with all the same information. She had to create a PDF, and she had to write in all of the same information. And so it was super tedious. And it was like the same thing that she's just copy and pasting over and over again. And so what we built was like a custom Google Workspace add on where she was able to fill out the form with all the information once, and then it immediately created the calendar invite on the right calendar, sent an email to the appropriate people, and generated a PDF for the transport office to be able to sign, make sure that they had the appropriate signatures and billing information and all that kind of stuff. So it was like some simple tool. It probably took me a day to tinker with it and get it right, especially with the different design elements and things like that I wanted, and making the PDF look good. But it was totally worth it because now it's going to save her kind of countless hours of time of repetition that just totally was just wasting a lot of time and helping to her focus on things that are maybe a little more important. So it's super fun. So start with a small build. Start with something simple, something easy, something totally doable. And the way that we do that is you just think about what are the most repetitive tasks in my day? What are the things that I just continue to come back to over and over again that just feel so monotonous and repetitive? And there's probably a way we can build something to actually improve that, make that super simple. So there you have it. We have 5 shifts, 5 different ways of getting away from the AI slop that you could do. So we have, teach it your voice, which you can find a prompt in the description, um, and we will give you that prompt so you can plug that in, and it will ask you a series of questions to make sure that you can get your right voice out of the LLM tool that you're using. We have to make it ask you first. So have it ask you tons of questions, have it give you all of the things and knowledge that it needs to know before it starts building anything or producing anything. So that way it has all the context it needs. Give it a home. So make sure that it has a project, a place where you can store all of these kinds of information and documents and files and things that it creates, and as well as ones that you've already created. Find what's broken, use it to just analyze and assess anything that you're building or anything you're working on to find the gaps, the errors, and the places that it's not working as properly. And then build the tiny tool. Find those repetitive tasks, the things that are just consistently driving you crazy because it takes an hour to do, but it's because you're just copying and pasting a million times. Those are the super easy list and things that you could probably solve in a weekend. So with that said, pick one task this week. Uh, this could be one click. This could be, trying something different. It could be asking it a question. It could be using the prompt. Just try something different. Put it into action. Try one of these tools. Super easy, super simple. If you have questions, comments in the below, and we'll see if we can answer. There's only a few of you that are watching these, and so we'd be happy to help and assist on those questions that you have. So thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.